Let's be honest, making a video game is probably one of the hardest things you can possibly do. You have to not only learn how to make art, you have to learn how to make music, coding, and using a game engine, which can actually be really hard if you don't know how to use one. I've only been learning how to make a game for about 2 weeks now, and I gotta say, I've not had an easy time with it. Learning to code has been one of the harder things that I've done, and especially learning how to use Unity. But I made a game. This is what it looks like, and I'm pretty excited to show you how I made it. If you know anything about video game development, you would know what a game jam is. And if you don't know what a game jam is essentially a competition where a theme is given and a group of people will try to compete to make the best game. Sometimes there will be rewards, or sometimes it's just for the heck of it. And it's really fun if you know what you're doing, but it can also be very stressful if you don't know what you're doing. Just recently, Jacksepticeyes released a game jam called Jacksepticeyes. After only about a week or two into development on a game that I was working on, after watching some Brackeys tutorials, I saw Jacksepticeyes had made it, and I decided, why not? You know, it would be really fun if I did it. So I hopped on, and it turns out I hopped on in the middle of the game jam, which was not ideal. And I only had 3 days to do it. It was very stressful. The theme of the game jam was death is an opportunity. There was a few things that came to mind at first. One of the things that came to mind was you could die and then use your dead players as a way to almost use them as building blocks. But I'm not nearly far enough in my development journey to be able to do that. So I moved on to a different idea. The second idea I had was you are a bug, essentially, and you have to climb a plant to get to a different platform. I got kind of far with that idea, but then I realized it would be not fun at all, so I moved on to a different idea, because fertilizing a plant to make it grow seems more like a clicker game, and that's not what I was going for. My third idea was the one that I went for, and it's essentially dying and becoming a ghost to phase through walls so that you can make it to the other parts of the platform puzzle, but you can't interact with the puzzle as a ghost. So you have to find out how to become a human again, which I thought this was a pretty cool idea, so that's what I went for. Starting off, I started with an easy little movement script that I learned how to make through Brackeys code that he had on one of his tutorials. It was pretty easy to follow with, and I enjoyed the process. The next thing I did was I figured out how to manipulate the code to make it where if I hit a death object, which is a trigger on a box collider, you would turn into a ghost, or the code itself would say you're a ghost. With this, I made it to where some certain walls will be disabled if you are a ghost, and they'll be re-enabled if you're a human. That way, you can't interact with the walls as a ghost, and, well, it's pretty self-explanatory. After that, the next thing that I started working on was the actual level design. The level design wasn't that hard to make, but going on only 2 weeks, it was pretty difficult, and I didn't really know how to do it. So, essentially what I did was I just took a sprite, and I scribbled in some stuff, and I called it a level. I found the actual cycles of development pretty nice and easy at the first day. It was mostly just ideas and putting pretty basic code into the game engine and getting it to work. But after that, it did get kind of difficult, but that's for day 2 and not to worry about for today. As day 2 started to roll around, I hit some walls. One of the biggest problems I had was getting a door to move after you push a box into a hole. The way I got the box to work was I had it fall into a hole, hit colliders, trigger an event, and it would essentially cause the door to move up to a specific Y level. I'm not sure why I had so much trouble with this. I thought at first to use a while loop, but it didn't quite work. So I had to consult the big brain AI to help me, and it was pretty simple overall. This is the code that I used, and I tweaked a little bit to follow what I needed, but overall I got the grasp of it. The next thing I had trouble with was the actual ghost walls themselves. The way I had it working before was the player would have a collider around him, and when you would go near a wall, it would essentially check if the wall was a ghost wall or not. And after that, it would check if the ghost was true or not. Depending on that, you could go through the wall or not go through the wall. But there were problems with it. I would turn off the box collider itself, and then when I would go back to the wall, it would stay unactive because I deactivated it and there's no wall to collide with. So essentially what I did instead was I tagged the walls with a certain tag, and then it would go through an array and it would pull every single object with that tag, put it in array, and then it would disable the box collider on those tagged objects. This worked a lot better because it actually worked, number one, and it was a lot more efficient, number two, a lot less code in general. I started on the animation around this time, but I honestly have no idea how to do animation, so when I did try to do it, it barely worked at all, and it failed miserably. So I worked on what I had for the rest of the day and left the rest for the next day. This is where things started to come together. I had went on itch.io and I found a tile map that I could use for free with free royalties so that I didn't have to waste a lot of time on the art. I did, however, make some art myself. I made the player character, the gravestones, I made the stands, the keys, and I think I made one more thing, but it's not coming to my mind. With the royalty-free sprites that I had got, I spent about an hour decorating the level how I like it. It took a lot longer than I thought it would, reasonably, and after I was done with it, I was really happy. After that, I had implemented a parallax effect, which was really cool in my opinion, but you can't really see it as the game plays because it's such a tight dungeon. Overall, I thought it was worth my time, it was worth learning about, and it was really cool. Now moving on to the animation. The hardest part for me, personally, because the hardest part was actually transferring from a ghost to a human at will. And I had no idea and still really don't know how to do it properly. How I did it was I basically made a huge mess out of the animation tree. It works kind of, but not really. So this is what it looks like when I'm playing the game. Sometimes there will be issues when I'm playing it, and you can see that the ghost will flip upside down sometimes, which is not ideal. And sometimes the player will act like he's falling when I'm just walking. Still not ideal. Another thing that I had added that my buddy actually told me about was instead of having the E in the ghost bubble that I had drawn just always there, have it pop up when you walk nearby. This was really smart, honestly, and I don't know why I didn't think of this, but it was really easy to implement. It was a simple box trigger and you just walk close to it. It enables the sprite renderer and it looks pretty good, honestly. Finishing up, I basically just added a UI element with a canvas and a panel that had my logo, the name, and when you opened a chest, it would just give you the end screen. I didn't have any time to actually make a opening screen where you can select options or play or anything like that, but I'm pretty happy with what I made. It was only 2 weeks that I have really been developing games, and I think this is pretty good for only 2 weeks. I don't think I'll be doing another game jam anytime soon, per se, and when I did upload the game to the game jam, the next day I got a couple replies in the comment section saying they couldn't run the game. And the night prior, I did actually have issues compiling the game. I'm not super sure how to do it, but I got it done, I think. I think my next project that I want to work on is a bit bigger than this one. I'm giving myself about a month to work on it. What I want is a night 2D platformer where you're in a dungeon as a knight, but I want it to be a physics-based game. So I want you to have guns that will propel you across the map and different stuff like that. And the idea at first was a gravity flip because it sounds easy and cool. Overall, I think the game jam was a ton of fun. It was a bit stressful. I worked about 8 hours a day on it, which in total is about 16 to 24 hours. So it was really stressful and a lot of time. I don't think I'll do one for a while, maybe a couple months. But with that, you should subscribe, help the channel out, like if you could, and I'll see you next time.